record for a while. All right. So we already kind of checked in about, the other day and how you're doing. What about just in your classes? Like, how do you think things are going in your classes thus far? Because you have two classes of pre-cal and algebra, you have two courses of pre-cal and algebra 2, right? So how are those going for you, in your opinion?
If I'm judging by the learning targets, I would say I'm not unhappy with it. I mean, like my own personality is like always never like satisfied. Oh, it's perfect. I'm gonna accept that. But as far as like the first one, they did really well on, and the second one not so much. So actually, in my other classes, they probably did average, and then in one class they didn't do good on it. So in the other classes, I never actually finished the going over, like, the very first day I had to make a flag and say, how does this represent you? And it's been, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 weeks, and we never went through everybody. So I had them finish that activity while students were retaking the test, and I thought that was semi-successful. And
This is for your algebra 2 class, right?
for my algebra 2 class.
Okay.
And then for the one period where a lot of them did bad, I just had them the whole class retake it.
I see.
I gave them homework.
And this was on the domain, right?
Domain and range.
Domain and range, okay. And did they struggle with the graphical part of it, or?
I think it was more the notation, interval notation part.
Okay. Because I remember you made the choice of kind of combining them together, like the domain and range and interval notation.
I combined the two for trig and pre-cal.
Oh, okay, but not for
For
algebra 2?
algebra 2, there wasn't even a learning target on interval notation.
Okay.
But I figured I might have to teach them a way to represent it, so I chose that one.
No, I think that's good. I think that, like, so I'm just going to put algebra 2, add in LT for interval notation. I mean, I think that's fine. I mean, we don't necessarily have to do it there. I think they don't really lose anything by getting it there as well. And so in algebra 2, you think the interval notation actually threw them off a little bit?
Yeah, and you know what? I told them at the beginning, and I didn't really follow through, was that I'm not really assessing you on how you show domain range, just that you know what the domain range is.
Mm-hmm.
So I took off like a half a point for if they got like the parentheses and semicolons wrong, but looking back on it, I probably shouldn't have took off any points. Just, if they wrote the right domain, with the wrong brackets or whatever, it's not that big a deal.
Cool.
But,
Cool. No, I think that's good. And so for this particular meeting over here, and I just wanted to just get just a check-in of like, how you thought things are going overall. And so I did an observation in your class for a bit. And so one of the things I thought we could look at is in our observation template over here. So it's that Excel sheet that I've shared with you. And so this one.
you know what it's called?
Yeah, I'll share it really quick for you again. Okay. All right. Sent. And so one of the things I did, and what we talked about at the beginning, was again, when I come into the room, like, I'm looking for, not that I'm looking for, but like, I will be taking notes, and in particular, in a variety of things, but also in particular those things that we focused in on, right? And the beginning, right? And so what I did, so if you look at the observation, so that's how your first pre-assessment, if you can remember, that's what you're looking at now. You as area of focus, you did criteria under criteria 1, A and B, right? Which is basically like whole actions and tone, stance, and then curriculum design.
Yeah, I
Right.
remember. Are we on observation 2 or 3?
2 right now.
Okay.
And then so in magenta, I put the objective so I can evaluate functions algebraically and graphically. Okay. And And so what I wanted us to do is I don't know if you looked through this or not. You probably did because you're super busy.
Yeah,
doing stuff.
I was trying to get this done, but yeah, I have other stuff that
It's totally fine, man. Don't worry about it. But what I mean, it is, like, because I do want your feedback, right? I want to know.
And I want to read it too.
Right. And so what I would do is, and again, because it's just like a lot of information, and as we talked about before, what I did was I wrote down your objective actions here under the teacher action items observed, right? And so so like literally I just wrote like what you did, just what you did, right? So it's not like what I interpreted it, but like this is just like what happened. And then on the right hand side, these are just like some questions that I have, or like thoughts about it in general. And in particular, and I know that there's a lot of information, and so what I think we should do, if you want to take like a few minutes to just review the yellow ones, and also if you scroll down a little bit, I've also put some boxes in green, just as like areas of focus, okay? And not even focus, but just like actual questions that I wanted to kind of talk about during our meeting, so I didn't forget. So you want to take like a few minutes to look it over? Sure. Okay. So as we look at this kind of form or whatever, like what are your initial thoughts? Just like reviewing this my notes on your lesson, and this was on 9/9, so that was 6 days ago, right?
Trying to remember.
I know it's like so long ago.
Feels like it. I would say that I lecture once every 3 days. So the majority of the time, I don't know if there's like a normal, but my normal is usually giving them a do now and having them in groups or in pairs do some kind of activity, and then kind of going over the activity and then giving them independent practice work. And then once we're done with that and we're moving on to the new learning target, I lecture them like 2 times on it. So I break it up to like 2 lectures, and then we just kind of work on that. I usually do the random calling on people during do now, because I have the attendance thing, and then there's a little button, you can choose a random person.
Oh, cool.
But I realized that I don't do that during later on, because I don't have that thing open. So this is just kind of obvious to me. I don't really want to call out people sometimes, like in math, especially if it's something new. But then again, it probably would keep people on their toes. So maybe I thought that was good enough. That I don't know if you've seen it.
Which one?
On Power Teacher, you can go to like the seating chart.
Right.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. And then, go ahead. Sorry.
No, sorry. And I just choose something randomly, but I don't know if I should use this, like Wandia random student selector, or create like I used to have flashcards for every student. I just use that. Maybe that's a better indication.
I think, I like what you said about how, you use this because it seems like, are you telling the students when you're randomizing that you're randomizing it? Or do they know that that's coming?
Yeah, to be honest, I get very little participation compared to my science classes. And thinking back on it, I kind of remember that about math classes. There's less discussion and less kind of like people raising their hand and answering questions. But for the do now, they're pretty low risk. They're like, what do you think? They're not. You don't have to be like completely right. So I always, if no one, I always take like 2 people and then I call on a couple people at random. And then sometimes nobody wants to answer, and then I'll call on people at random. but I don't necessarily do that when I'm lecturing. And I don't know if I should start doing that or not.
Do you think that there is value in cold calling students around lecture time?
You know what I cold call students for is to kind of get them more engaged in the activity.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's a question I think they can answer. But when I was lecturing, my main goal was to get the information across. It wasn't to like assess like what they know, and it wasn't kind of to have a discussion about it. It's more just to get the information in the notebook so they can refer to it when they're doing their practice, understand the concept.
No, I mean, I like it. I think that, cold calling is a very powerful tool. Do you see yourself using it as a formative or as like a formative assessment, or just kind of like a quick check-in?
No, I rarely cold. I mean, I guess I do. I think that I rarely cold call people only to get their attention. But like, if I ask a question and no one knows it, I'm not gonna like call someone that I think is smart. Like I don't think that's like ethical.
I would agree.
Yeah, but I usually call people that either I feel like they know it and they're not paying attention, or I kind of want to guide them. I don't call them like to embarrass them.
Yeah, and I don't think
That's
that.
my judgment with that.
Right. No, totally. And I don't think that that's what cold calling should be used for. But I also think that like it is a good way to hold everyone accountable, or it can be. It can be a powerful way. A suggestion that I've seen, or something that I've seen teachers do, and something I've done in my classes is to have like a moment where like it's going to be cold calling time, right? You're like, okay, so now I'm going to randomly select somebody. So you kind of prime students to know that like now I'm going to randomly select on someone, and so like it kind of gets them ready, right? Because I hear what you're saying in terms of, because some teachers like, Lockett, for example, likes to cold call all the time, right? Which is cool because that's part of his style, right? And he owns it in, I think, a very authentic way. And I do think that it is a powerful tool. It can be a powerful tool. Like, I don't think that you necessarily need to, change what you're doing. But I do think that, like, which is part of my question, like, how do you make that decision, right? Because you are doing it, right? And I just think, like, maybe being a little bit more intentional about, like, how you can utilize that tool more when you do use it.
Well, I mean, I think what you're saying is when you tell the class, like, I'm going to call somebody randomly, then everyone's engaged.
Yeah.
As opposed to you just calling somebody that's just one person's engaged.
Exactly.
And I do that for the do nows, but I probably should do it more often in regular lessons.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I'm introducing something, I don't feel like I should do that.
Yes.
They might not know it.
Yeah.
So for most of the time when I'm lecturing, I don't do that because I'm introducing something.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure. I'll have to like build in that time, like you said, like we're gonna go over these questions and I'm gonna call people randomly.
Yeah.
Because what I normally do is, like I said, if we do pair or group activities, either like everyone shares out,
Mm-hmm.
or we just kind of debrief together and then we talk about the answers like in independent practice. So it's not bad. That'd be a good time to do it, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's cool. And again, like that's not like the most important thing ever, but it was just something I noticed. Cool, awesome. And then so maybe we should go. Do you want to go through the green things or the yellow things first? What do you want to do? Okay. How is the? Yeah, that's the question I had. How is the tutoring? I'm looking at the question number 1F. Like, you set up your tutoring system so students become tutors. How has that been, by the way? I'm super curious.
That's a good question because it was actually really effective the first couple weeks, and because I was building it up and I kept reminding them like, finish, go over there.
Right.
And then I think it is on my own self. Like I tell them to do the work, and then I don't remind them like to go back, and I think they forget too. So but that's something that I think is effective. Like it's worth me like putting more time into reminding them. Like when you're done, go over there. It's just something that I need to work on myself.
Cool. No, awesome. I mean, because I love it. Like, I'm always, that is something like, you know, I'm kind of, because I remember when I came in for that lesson, like somebody went back there and I was just like, oh my God, this is awesome, right? That's what we want, like, because it's part of that whole student-centered classroom, them taking ownership of the material and learning. And so I just think it's beautiful, and I was sharing it with other people too. So that was super awesome. Just another couple quick things, and so under number 2, so criteria 2, part C. So this is like student learning is active, right? Students have taken on a majority of the cognitive load and continually build towards a greater independence. And so I wrote here, from what I've seen, because I missed the beginning of the period, right? The majority of the time, like you were talking, and again, like you said, it was just that lesson I came in, right? Because you already clarified, because you said you lecture, what, maybe once a week, right, or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, to be realistic, like domain and range, function, non-function, like there's not that much stuff you can lecture on. Like I had one lecture on functions, you know, function, non-function. I had 2 or 3 on domain range over the course of 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, there are little things like that I do once in a while. Like after reading out, I'll remind them, like add these to your notes kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, moving on. Sorry.
No, that's good, man. No, I mean, and then this, and I'll be real with you, man. When I'm doing my class, like this is something I'm always thinking about, right? The student-centeredness, like how, and this is, so I'm asking you this question in the same way I'm asking me, like how can we